you'll play a game, and everything will almost be the same.
Okay, hello and welcome to another video for the Many More Games video channel. If you might remember, in our previous video I discussed a little bit about Age of Sigmar and why I feel that it was a good game. You then were invited to go to our sister channel, which is Twisted Shadows, where she discussed the forces of chaos and exactly what sort of things she enjoys about collecting and playing chaos in Age of Sigmar. And so today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the forces of order and using our time together while we're discussing it to talk about sort of things like what sort of things make up the forces of order, what sort of races you can expect to play, why I feel it's a good idea to play them, and the benefits of the order play style for someone who's thinking of getting into Age of Sigmar. So let's start off with what are the forces of order. Now I want to clarify something from the get-go. Forces of order does not necessarily mean good guys, okay? Age of Sigmar is a little bit more complicated than that, and they have been going recently into trying to develop a darker or more sort of twisted form of background that we can embrace as players. So what I mean by that is forces of order are not, they're not the traditional good guys you might see in fantasy. Instead, forces of order means a race of people or creatures that builds, creates a civilization or has a society of some kind. They are a structured race. They have a culture. They are trying to expand and build their empire. And as I said, that doesn't necessarily mean good guy. I'd like to give an example of that later on. What sort of races make up the forces of order? Now, the forces of order are made up of what we consider traditional fantasy good races. For example, you have the humans. I say good races for humans. Humans are kind of neutral. They can be good, they can be bad. As you may have seen with Twisted Shadows video, a lot of the chaos are human. They're humans who have fallen to worship of chaos. So in this case, humans can be either side, but for the forces of order, there are certain armies which are human-based, and those are considered to be one of the more sort of good races in the mortal realms. We also have, of course, elves and dwarves. We also have a race of creatures called Seraphon. Seraphon are what used to be called lizardmen in Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and we also have a race of, as I mentioned before, tree people who are called the Sylvaneth. Okay, so let's just go into a little bit about what you might find there. So humans, they are the most widespread and diverse of races, like they are in many traditional fantasy tropes. You have the Free Guilds, who are a race of humans who live a sort of mercenary life. They are the soldiers of the mortal realms of the human cities, and they're normally made up of more sort of general units, handgunners, cannons, knights, you know, the sort of the traditional human armies that you might see in a lot of fantasy games. You also have, well, the humans are broken down into several different factions. You've got the Free Guild, who are, as I said, the soldiers. Then you've got the Collegiate Arcana, who are the wizards, and sort of with their mounts and their war machines. You also have the Ironworld Assault. Now that's, Ironworld Arsenal. And that's made up of humans and dwarfs mixed together. And they are the war machine users. They create the cannons, the catapults, the rocket guns, all those sorts of things, organ guns, flame cannons, all of those sort of things are in the Ironworld Assault. Then you have the Stormcast Eternals. The Stormcast Eternals are human, or so far, from what we can see, they are human, but they're humans who've been raised by Sigmar to become demigods. They're immortal, and once they take the field, once they die, they get reforged, brought back to life, as Stormcast Eternals again, but every time they do so, they lose a little bit of their personality and who they are. So they become less and less human over time. We have the Sylvaneth. They are, as I said in a previous video, they're a race of tree people who worship the goddess Alariel, who used to be an elf goddess in the previous Warhammer Fantasy battles, but she kind of gave up on her elf children, and now she is the goddess of life. And the Sylvaneth worship her, and she is a very powerful special character you can actually have in the game. Then you have large tree lord ancients who look a little bit like the Ents from Lord of the Rings, the Dryads, who are smaller tree people, and then you have the Kurnoth hunters, who are a sort of a mix between tree men and Dryads. Then you have the dwarves. The dwarves are broken down to several different factions. You have the dispossessed. That's the traditional dwarves from the original Warhammer Fantasy battles. So large closed ranks of dwarves with shields, heavy armor, axes, guns, all that sort of thing. No war machine, no monsters to speak of. Plodding, slow, but very, very tough dwarf armies. But then they've created two other dwarf subsects. You have the Fire Slayers. The Fire Slayers are a group of dwarfs who live in mountains, and those dwarves they ride around on sort of land dragons called salamanders. They use a lot of fire-based weapons, and they have they're quite brutal because they have these special runes beaten into their skin, which give them special powers every turn because they can invoke the power of their gods, and that can make them more durable or maybe do more damage to the enemy or more scary, depending on what sort of play style you're going for. On the other flip side, you've got the Kharadron Overlords, who are the ultimate shooty army, and they're very fast for dwarves because everything flies in their army. You can put everything on giant airships and zoom them around the board, and everything shoots because they're like privateers from sort of our world. They're like privateers and pirates, or a merchant navy of some kind. And yeah, they're pretty tough and also pretty shooty. Both the Fire Slayers and the Kharadron Overlords are quite new, and I'll get into the benefits and drawbacks of that in a moment. We also have the Elves. The Elves, we don't know a lot about the Elves, really, in Age of Sigmar at the moment. Recently, we've had a lot more information, but until recently, we didn't really know very much at all. You have the traditional Elves from the Warhammer Fantasy battles. You have the Eldritch Council, who are the Elvish mages and their Swordmaster protectors. You have the Phoenix Guard. The Phoenix Guard are like a warrior monk organization. They have their own city in the Age of Sigmar world. They ride around on phoenixes, and they are very, very difficult to kill because they're protected by sort of a magical barrier, which gives them special armor saves every turn. Then we have sort of the more traditional elves, the bow-wielding, horse-riding, lightly armored elves, as well as elves that ride around on the back of dinosaurs, which are from the Dark Elves. They ride around on these creatures called Cold Ones, who are basically dinosaurs. And we also have Corsairs, and, well, it really depends on your playstyle, but most of these elves that we look at are from the original Warhammer Fantasy battles. I'll do a video on elves and the different races separately at some point, so you can get an idea as to what's there available for you. But yes, recently we've had two new additions to the Elvish factions. We have and both of them kind of prove my point earlier when I said that just to be order doesn't mean good. You've got the Brides of Cain, who worship a dead god called Cain, the god of murder. It's an all-female elf army. You have elves with Medusa-like bodies, half snake, or with harpy wings, and they're being ruled by this demigoddess who escaped from the Chaos God's gullet after the end times, and she's like twisted and half snake and half with big giant bat wings. Beautiful model, absolutely beautiful model. Marathi. If you play Total War, she's actually a character you can play as in Total War, and this is what's happened to her in the Mortal Realms. So they're not good at all. They'll fight with the Order teams, but they are more interested in murdering enemies and stealing their hearts and stealing their blood, and then dedicating that to their god Cain. You also have the Idoneth Deepkin, who are a brand new army, very, very new. These are the fish riding elves, sea elves. What makes them interesting, though, is they are not good guys. They are basically soul stealers. They ride in from the deeps, and they come and they take entire villages and steal people's souls. The reasons for this is because when they were being recreated by the elvish god Teclis, they were damaged in some way, and now what happens is they're born with these sort of withered souls. A lot of them are born with these very weak souls, and so they need to steal the souls of others, like vampires, to survive. Why should you play them? Why should you play Age of Sigmar? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the Seraphon. Seraphon, yes, the Seraphon are the lizard men, and they are they've been kind of reimagined a little bit to be almost like good demons. They are the memory of a race of people from the world that was. So they are sort of thought into being by these celestial space toads called the Slan. And they appear when they're needed most. A bit like demons appear to help the forces of chaos, the Seraphon sometimes appear to help the forces of order. And they are sort of the anti-chaos. They hate chaos. What can I say about them? Well, their range hasn't really changed since Warhammer Fantasy Battles. So you have dinosaurs and lizards riding around on dinosaurs. If you like that, that's brilliant. And some of the most powerful magic wielders in the game. So, sorry, to go back, why should you play Order? Why should you play Order over Chaos? Well, really for the same reasons you should play Chaos. It's a very diverse list that you can choose from. There's almost every kind of play style available to you. If you wish to play a magic-heavy army, maybe you want to create a force centered around the Eldritch Council. Or maybe you want something that is, or maybe something, a Lizardman army which is based on magic. If you prefer shooting, well then you've got the Sylvaneth with a some very shooty units in their armies, but you also have the Free Guild, the Ironweld Assault with their cannons and bolt throwers, and then you've got the dwarves who also have access to those same weapons, or of course Kharadron Overlords, where everything in the army can shoot. If you want to play fast hit-and-run armies, then maybe you want to play the Swifthawk Raiders, who are elves who fly around on the back of sky chariots. Or the Idoneth Deepkin. Maybe you want to play Stormcast that are fast. Well, that's fine. You've got the Vanguard Chamber, who are elves. Who are Stormcast, who can sort of vanish into the winds of magic and then appear somewhere else on the table. You can also play as the Sylvaneth if you like that type of play style, because the Sylvaneth can teleport between different forests, and every single Sylvaneth army gets a certain amount of forests that they get to start the game with. So you need a bit of terrain to play as them. But it's very, very fun playstyle because you can literally melt away into the woods and appear somewhere else on the board. If you want to play armored and defensive, well, Stormcast, lovely defensive army. Dispossessed, very defensive army. If you want to play a very attack-heavy army, well, I can literally say every army in the Order book can be seen as an attack-heavy army. Maybe the only one I would say not so much is the Kharadron Overlords, not because they can't attack, but because they really are a shooting-based army. They don't really have any major close combat players. So, what's next for Order? Well, why should we play Order? Is there going to be something amazing coming up in the future? The answer to that is don't really know at the moment, but there are lots of hints of stuff that might be coming our way. there are still two races of elves that haven't been explored, because there are two sets of gods that haven't been identified, and sort of their races haven't been explored yet. You have Tyrion and Teclis, who are the twin gods of light, who are elves who live in the realm of Haish, which is the realm of light. Now, Haish hasn't really been explored at all, so that's something that might be coming up. There have been hints that these will be angelic elves with wings and very magic-based sort of elfish army. There's also the god Malarian, who used to be Malekith in Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Now, we've had some hints, a few models, but never actually an entire race proposed to us yet. It looks like these will be elves using shadows and illusions, because Malarian is the god of the realm of shadows. He's, from what pictures we've been able to see so far, art that's been hinted at, he looks like he's like a mixture between an elf and a dragon, so that could be pretty cool. Stormcast. I know everybody hears, oh no, not more Stormcast. There's so much Stormcast. GW loves their Stormcast. Well, they do. They do love their Stormcast. Probably because they're popular, and probably because they are kind of don't want to give them that handle of Sigmarines, but they're kind of like the Space Marines of the fantasy genre. And there have been hints that there are still more chambers yet to be opened. We already have 3 chambers so far. We have the Extremist Chamber, we have the Vanguard Chamber, and we have the Warrior Chambers. You want to say that's what they're called, but I can't remember exactly what the main chambers are called. We still haven't seen the Auxiliary Chambers or any of the others, so there could be more Stormcast. There have been some fan art going around of Stormcast wizards, which they don't have at the moment, so that would be pretty cool. And also, of course, I'm expecting we'll probably see expansion of current armies. The Fire Slayers only have a few kits available to them at the moment. Available to them at the moment. There could be more Fire Slayers coming out at some point soon. We have, again, Kharadron Overlords could possibly be getting more. They have a few kits, but not as many as they possibly could have. Definitely nothing on the lines of Stormcast. Maybe something for the Seraphon? I don't know. Seraphon, I'm sorry, Seraphon players, if you're a major Seraphon player, they could be getting sort of phased out. I doubt that they'll be cancelled entirely, but I don't know if they're going to give a huge amount of support to Seraphon in the future. But, you know, luckily for Seraphon players, there's a huge list of units that you can play already. And the fluff, the stories gives us some hints that there might be a campaign coming up soon with Slaanesh escaping from wherever he's been hidden by Tyrion, Teclis, Malarian, and Marathi, the Elvish gods, because they've captured him and he's disappeared from the mortal realms. Finally, GW just the other day came out with something new for those people who prefer their old armies. Already the rules for the Warhammer Fantasy Battles old armies are available in the War Scrolls that are for free, put up for free by the by Games Workshop on their websites. But it appears like they're compiling them now into Warhammer Legends books, which will be available for free on their Warhammer community website. They've already done one, which is the Dark Elves, which is really nice. They've explained that new races will be coming out and that they won't be supporting so many of the old ranges soon, but they want to make sure that those people who have the models are still able to play with them. They may not be they may not be allowed in tournaments, official tournaments, but that doesn't mean they can't be used in tournaments that you set up yourselves or that are being set up by local communities. What that means is all the special characters will be able to be used, all the old models will be able to be used. So those of you who have the Malus Darkblade model, who read the books like I did and absolutely love his background and the stories around him and still want to play him, well, you can because of the Legends books. So at least GW is still showing support for those people who want to be able to play with their Warhammer Fantasy Battle armies in the Age of Sigmar world, in the Mortal Realms. Well, I think I'm sorry guys if I've sounded a bit breathless. I've kind of been talking myself hoarse trying to get this done within 20 minutes, and I've failed. It's 21 minutes now. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stop my video right here. I'll be doing another short video soon because I want to introduce you to another game, which is called Frostgrave, and that's what I'll be looking at in my next video. What is Frostgrave? Why should you play it? What's cool about it? What I really like about it? And you know, how you can get into it. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching this video of many more games and for tuning in. And hopefully, I didn't bore you senseless. It's been really good to have you watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon in my next video. Okay. Bye.